If you've ever taken a statistics class, you've probably learned the importance of interpreting data correctly. For whatever reason, data can be misinterpreted, and that can have real-world consequences. Therefore, there exists a moral obligation to society to be as accurate as possible. For CO2 Coalition member Kip Hansen, this realization came in the form of a colorful graphic on the internet.
I'm a freelance science journalist, and I write about interesting things in science, mathematics, and health. In the late summer of 2019, several news stories began popping up around the internet, which included this very colorful bar graph of reported disasters around the world being published on the internet by Our World and Data. Let me show that to you. There it is. The graph was accompanied by claims that natural disasters had quadrupled or quintupled since 1970. I looked into this very carefully. Why? Because there's something so obviously wrong with the data that I just could not leave it alone. I lived through the period of 1970 to 1999. I generally followed world events. I was an adult. I traveled and sailed all over Southern Europe, North Africa, the Azores, the Canaries, the Bahamas, the U.S. East Coast, and the Caribbean. I'm no genius, but I was quite sure that if disasters had been quadrupling or quintupling all around me, I would have at least been aware of the fact. But I hadn't seen any quintupling of natural disasters.
As someone who regularly interprets data, Kip was fervent in asking the question, what are they really counting? With this question in mind, and as any great journalist would do, he set out to find those answers for himself. He wrote to the MDAT database manager, Regina Below, and asked,
My guess would be that 1970 to 1998 represents an increase in reporting and not in actual natural disasters. Can you confirm this, please, or correct me if I'm wrong? Her answer was,
You are right. It is an increase in reporting.
However, an increase in reporting and an increase in actual natural disasters are far from the same thing. This misrepresentation of data can actually play a part in impacting public policy decisions.
Thus, we find the World Meteorological Organization blatantly stating in a published report earlier this year, quote, the number of disasters has increased by a factor of 5 over the 50-year period 1970 to 2020. That is false, and in my opinion, they must know it. After all, they are the world's weatherman. When our government leaders, elected officials, and legislators are fed facts that do not represent reality, but are instead simply the public message of someone or some movement's political agenda, the result is public policy that leads to harm and not to benefit. We see this in Europe, where they suffer from skyrocketing energy costs as a result of ill-advised energy policies fueled by misinformation about climate change.